What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of For the Love of Bodybuilding. I'm your host, Logan Schultz. I'm with my co-host, Ian Powell. Ian, I think we've only done a podcast once this year. So fill everybody in
Sure.
on how the last 2 months or however long it's been have been and what's going on in life.
It's been a lot, man. I didn't think Q1 would be this crazy, but we decided to look around, find a house, and we fucked around and we found out. So we bought a house during this time. And then right after we bought a house, we went to Europe for about 8 days, 8 or 9 days. So that was, you know, a whole thing in itself. So we've been just kind of all over the place, getting a lot done before I feel like the busy season and before my prep really starts getting to full swing, where things kind of get locked down. I mean, we're traveling again in 5 weeks, and then after that, I'll be pretty much stationed here. But yeah, I mean, just small things like buying a house and going to see the girlfriend's family in a different country was definitely a very cool experience. I think I've finally gotten to the point where people are just constantly commenting on things when I travel, and it's getting kind of annoying sometimes. Um, and that's quite of an experience in itself. But especially in Europe, they're not used to bodybuilders really in general. Like they're just kind of just they're all fit. Like everybody's like in good shape, but they're nobody really works out. It's just like the way they live and eat. It's just easy. But yeah, I mean, just between those two things and getting ready for prep, I was in a health phase, a boring health phase. So those kind of are is what it is. They're necessary, but I take my health phase as pretty chill. Everybody has their own approach to that, but yeah, I've just been pretty busy with life things. How about you?
Yeah, 100%. I think that one of the things that always astonished me, like it was a big deal for me too, is like when we went to Europe, we realized that like there's really no fat people, but there's also no real muscular people either. Not just walking around anyways. You've obviously have got competitive bodybuilding over there, but you don't really like see them just walking around out and about, right? Like here, if I go to the mall, if I go shopping or something, I'm bound to see a jack person, but I'm also bound to see somebody who's morbidly obese. So there's just a very stark difference, and it was a kind of a shock to me as well. Uh, Things are going good. I think, mostly um, what we're on is more of like, the fertility journey of, well, just trying to have a kid, and then yeah, I think everything else is kind of just chugging along. Nothing too crazy going on in life right now. We're just trying to take one step at a time. We did actually, um, as of tomorrow, we'll be out of the option period, but our house in Livingston is under contract finally after a year of being on the market. So that's great. Wife is finally, a week into her new job or 2 weeks, something like that. So again, that's nice. After, 6 months of being off. So things are starting to look up. We got two out of the boxes checked. We just got one more to check and then I can start hardcore bodybuilding again. I did kind of get to a point to where I was tired of being in this just limbo phase and I was starting to really hate the way that I looked. I'm hating, how I feel in the gym and stuff like that. And so I kind of told Barry, like, hey, dude, we got to set a goal. I don't give a fuck what the goal is, but we got to set a goal and I got to push towards it. So we've started a mini cut because I'm looking rough. So we'll see how that goes being on 100 milligrams of test only and go from there.
Yeah, I mean it's gotta be tough, man. It's been a long time, so it's hard for anybody to be consistent without having a clear goal. Whenever you're
hmm
actively competing, you have several different phases that you run through, so it's a lot easier. But when there's nothing there, you have to manifest your own, and you might as well. It's about to be summer months anyway, so you might as well
Well,
get in
I
decent
think
shape.
what people underestimate is that there is always that goal, but there's also always a timeline. There's always an end date, right? There's light at the end of the tunnel. And in my case right now, it's like you don't know when that light is coming. It's like there is no light at the end of the tunnel. It's one day you just exit the tunnel. So, it's one day she's just gonna pop up pregnant, and voila. You know what I mean?
Yep, then it's done.
There's no signs that, oh, like, you know. So, yeah, setting a goal is hopefully will help me in that regard. So, I think today we're not going to cover just one topic. We're going to do a little Q&A. You've got some pretty good questions. I've got one, maybe two. And we'll talk about those, but I'll let you kick it off with your first. What you got?
Okay, this first one is from one of my clients here in a dieting phase, and he wants to know, how do we survive the cut suck, and what do you look for your sanity?
Suck it up, pussy.
What
I'm
do
kidding.
you do to look for your sanity when you're dieting, hardcore dieting? Let's say like you're trying to get peeled. What do you do?
I don't have time to worry about my sanity when I'm dieting. No, that sounds crazy, but here's why. When I get into prep, I try to fill my days up. I try to stay as busy as I can all day. That way I'm not sitting around in my mind and in my brain going through the what ifs and the possibilities and thinking about food, etc. Stop sitting around, do fill your day up. It, you can't go insane if you can't sit there in your brain. Like,
Yeah. You have to have some sort of output. I always tell people it's you need to find hobbies. Like, go do something. Try to find a new hobby, whether that be um, go just doing whatever. Like, it doesn't really matter. You can have a stationary hobby if it keeps you, if your mind, whatever it is, you just need to keep your mind moving. I always tell people this all the time. For me, it's always video games. I can always like sit down and let my body rest and recover, but have my mind constantly stimulated. So I'm
mhm.
getting that kind of both. Whereas like when I'm dieting, I can't watch a movie because when I'm watching a movie, my mind can go all over the place. Like I don't watch movies at all or TV shows at all. The only time I watch them is if I'm doing cardio. Like, I'll watch them while I
Yeah,
do that, but that's because I'm moving. But if I'm sitting home, if I'm truly at a point where like I'm resting, yeah, I play video games. I have to have something to keep my mind occupied. I can't really read. I can't. It has to be something that's like scratching autism to say. Like I need something that like really like keeps my
yeah,
mind active. Building things like go freaking. I
hmm,
recently done it. Go buy a Lego set. Go buy puzzles. Go throw a puzzle down and just start fucking with the puzzle. Like
yep,
whatever. That'll keep you busy.
yeah. So like, yeah, puzzles. I did a lot of puzzles during last prep, and not only that, but like, I did a lot of the household chores because it was like, I needed to stay busy. I didn't need to just sit around and um, think about how hungry I was. You know what I mean? So it, that's my advice for not going insane. And maybe it's not the best, but whatever.
Yeah. It depends on what you do. If you work from home, yeah, it's hard. It's hard when you work from home to kind of scavenge that. If you're able to go to a job or have something where you can travel, like it's better to be in a car and moving around and going to different destinations. Make up random errands. Make up random errands and like go to like a far store. Don't go to like the closest thing. Go do something a little bit
Park in
further.
and park in the back of the parking lot.
Yeah, just walking around, and at the end of the day, it's gonna fucking suck. It's gonna fucking suck. I mean, you're gonna find random monotonous things that you might end up doing, um, just to keep yourself sane. But get into weird things. I always find myself I get into like something like random, and I get like really invested into it. Then the minute prep is done, I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like
Yeah.
it's just kind of one of those things. But it's gonna
No.
suck. There's no real way to kind of avoid it. You just have to
Yeah.
do what's necessary. So good question though. Next one here I got here is, does Tren have a minimum effective dose? Yes, drug talk. Yes. Okay, you go ahead.
This is one of those things that I think I've changed my mind on in the last year or two. Um, and if you'd asked me, say 3 years ago, I probably would have said, yeah, probably no lower than like 50 every, like 3 times a week. is probably, about what I would have said. Now, though, I would say 5 milligrams a day is probably the lowest that I would go. Now, we're obviously talking about for a man, um, but I think at that dose, you have a lot of great benefits. There are some things you're not going to experience, but I think that there's still a lot of great benefits at that dose, and you have seen on firsthand like what that dose can do. So I've
Yeah.
never personally used that low. I think the lowest I've done is like 210 a week, but
Wow. Yeah. No, I definitely want to experience 150 a week. But yeah, I do think Tren is one of those drugs that for sure has a minimum effective dose. And there is, there is research out there, and if you deep dive it enough, there is some plenty of research out there that, anecdotally even speaking, that right around that 35 to 70 milligrams a week, you're going to get that glucocorticoid receptor stimulation, and you're really not going to lose muscle unless you're being a complete asshole with your diet, or you're just doing a shit ton of cardio, which there are coaches that will just put you on super low food and a lot of cardio and a lot of Tren, and you'll look really good and you'll feel like
done
absolute
it.
dog shit, and you'll probably lose a good amount of muscle in the process, because even though you are relying on these things, you're inherently creating a lot of stress, because every single thing, caloric deficits, cardio training, these all impact your recovery and your stress. And usually when you go up to those higher dosages, like, you can tell, like, you're not going to sleep, you're going to sweat, you're going to be cranky, you're going to be moody, and all of a sudden you're out of whack. But yes, I mean, I use 5 milligrams per day for Muscle Beach this last year. And yeah, I didn't have any side effect at all, really. I mean, I was super lean anyways towards the end of it. I did notice that, like, I definitely got harder on it, but that could be just because that was my first time ever taking it. Like, I don't think I might not ever get quite such a profound effect from my first time, but it definitely didn't mess with my sleep. I still made sure I was taking certain things, because one thing you have to worry about with Tren is that it's brain health. Like, you can have people that will take Tren and all of a sudden they can't multitask every time they come after they come off Tren. They're like, yeah, I just can't even multitask anymore. I've heard that from people where they've taken X amount of Tren and then for like eight weeks or so, then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I used to have good memory and now I don't. So you have to be very careful with Tren if it's first time or first couple times. Just get away with low, man. You don't need a lot. And I think a lot of the pros are actually going away from higher dosage as well, because they already have the muscle. Like, they don't need to push the drugs as hard.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're asking the question is minimum effective dose. So we're saying that like you could, in theory, could you go lower than 35 and get the the benefit that we're looking for?
I'm not really smart enough to know that. I don't have
Me
like any
neither.
sort of research to really know that. I listen to a lot of different people, and I listen to what they have to say for the most part. And 35 to 70 milligrams seems to be pretty safe and effective dose. I think if
Yeah.
you took anything lower, you might get some effect, but you're probably not gonna do enough of it to see too much, unless you're a female. But don't take it if you're a
Yeah.
female.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in the same boat. I'm not that guy to ask that question, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
can tell you that I've seen 35 milligrams a week work. And that's the lowest dose I've ever seen work. That's the lowest dose I've ever known anybody to use as well. So it is what it is. And I've used upwards of, I've never used 7, but I have used 600 milligrams in a week. So I've used quite a spectrum of trend dosing. Not much to show for it, but all right.
Trend's great. All right, you can do your question.
Peak week carb loading styles and situations you might implement each. What you got? That's kind of that can be an encumbersome question.
Yeah, yeah, we can kind of go through. I think like the main three, like a front load, a back load, and a linear load. I mean, those are strictly speaking on carbs. You could also fat load too, but
Yep.
I don't want to necessarily go through that one. That one's not really. Um, Not many people do it. Some people, I've done it a few times and it's worked very effectively, but like, you're mostly going to see the carb loading. So it's easier to go over those. So front loading, is good if you have to make weight and you're absolutely peeled and you need to have some level of glycogen in there to not look like a bag of bones when you go on stage. So front load I would use for somebody that's like fucking huge and they're trying to get into that area, so I want them to have enough glycogen in there. Or if I'm really like unsure of the body and I really want to load them ahead of time, that way if they spill, I can recover it over a day or two. I don't have to worry about it so much. That's when I would use a front load. Um,
So that's
is that when
interesting.
you would
You would
use
use
front
a
load?
front load. You would use a front load if you've got a guy that needs to make weight.
Yeah, typically, yeah.
I would think that's when you would use a back load. No?
It depends on when your weigh-in is
And how much time you have?
and how much time you have. Yeah.
Fair.
So I mean, you could backloading is like the more traditional, like how a lot of the guys do it.
Yeah.
But then again, it's weird with NPC because the height thing they could fuck you over so easy on that. Like I'm probably gonna get fucked over at some point because of it because I'm so in between. So it's like
Yeah.
8 pounds difference in between. So if I do a backload and I'm like, okay, like I'm supposed to be 194, and they height me and lower, I'm supposed to be 187, but I'm like pretty much loaded and I'm like 193, 194. It's like,
Hmm.
well, now you have to deplete back down in 2 3 hours or whatever. So it's a little bit risky, but I think
Well, that
backloading
assumes
is.
that you. I mean, if you're in that situation, you're not going to backload until your weigh-ins are done,
Yeah, but then when you would
right?
backload, you would only have
Less than
um,
24 hours. Yeah.
less than 12 hours to say
Yeah.
12 hours probably like 12 hours till you're on stage. So and
Yeah.
then you're cramming food and then digestion water and then everybody
Yeah.
comes out with a big belly. So it's
That's the problem with classic. Yeah.
and that's the problem with classic is you really want to make sure that you're so I think if you're going to do a front load, it's good to do it if you're safe, like if you want to be safe and play around with it a bit. Also, if you know that like you're gonna be like on that fucking cap or whatever it is, and you need to make
Yeah.
sure you have some level of that. That's probably for like a high level pro classic physique. Like I'm very interested to see how some of these pro guys make their classic weight.
Yeah.
Um,
So
it's
am I.
probably it's probably something quite similar to that. But again, these guys are ready like quite ahead of time, so that they know how to manipulate their food pretty well.
Yeah.
But for what we're talking about, I think front loading is very safe if you don't know like how this person's really going to respond and you want to do it. That way you have time to work on it. But backload, you're going to get more of the dramatic effect if you do it
Hmm.
right. That's why everybody usually does it because it's dramatic if it pays off. And for the most part,
It's also the
this
more traditional thing to do.
yeah, it's definitely the more like common thing of loading on a Thursday or Friday.
Yep.
Uh,
Wait until you've weighed in if weight's a problem, if weight is potentially a problem. And then after that you start hammering food. I've done that quite a few times.
yeah, for the most part, I think a lot of us do backloads, and a lot of what you're going to see is backloading. Linear
Hmm.
loading, I like doing it for females a lot. It gives them a lot of wiggle room to play, um, and you can kind of get away with something like me. Like if I try to linear load myself, like I'm fucking never gonna get full. It's not gonna work. I can't do a linear load. Yeah.
So why don't
But
you
yeah.
explain linear load to people who don't know what a linear load is?
So linear load is basically you start slowly bumping the carbs on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So say if I have a female, and I start them off at 150 grams on Monday. Might not think that's a lot, but actually for a female sometimes that can be. And then gradually bring it up to like 175, 180, 220, 250, 300 if they need it, or hold them at 250 again. That way you can just see how like their body responds. I think that's really good for bikini and wellness because again, you want to see how they digest food and they need to stay snatched. They don't have a lot of muscle to where you're like you need to like backload them like a man or something like
Yeah.
that. Unless I'm
That's
sure
how,
you're working with like wellness pros, but
yeah,
that's a different ballgame.
that's how I've done it with women as well. And then you kind of have to monitor like how because some of these shows, man, women go on so late that they're prejudging. You kind of have to monitor how they respond to, like how much water they hold throughout the day and what that looked like. And then it's like, it's really good if you linear load them because then the day of, you might be able to give them a little bit of carbs, but If they start to hold a lot of water throughout the day, then you might want to pull it back just a touch to keep them a little bit on the drier side. Um,
And then obviously, back load you load Thursday, Friday
yeah.
show. Front load you load Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you would taper it down on Thursday or Friday.
Hmm.
I did that with Matt. I did a front load initially with Matt. That's how when he did Labrada, he was like blasting full
Hmm.
on that. Is because I've already made sure he was topped off. I just had to make sure he just didn't go flat.
Did you spill him?
No, didn't spill him either.
No.
Yeah, he's someone that can take a lot of food too, and he wasn't spilling the
Yeah.
doggy.
Oh yeah, the dog was, but I was laughing at the food. Yep.
Oh yeah. Well, it's white
Can you hear
Caucasian
my
white. Yeah,
you can hear my dog squeaking the toy?
it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. The recording should cut it out.
That's okay. There is a dog in there, but
She's
so
actually downstairs.
oh damn. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
your thing's
I'm
kind of open.
upstairs. Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Okay, so that's a good one. Um, and then we have where do you believe? Wait, hold on. This one, yep. Where do you believe the point of diminishing returns is with PEDs and bodybuilding? How do you know when someone's past it?
Man, I think that that's a different answer for everybody. And I think that very much so depends on your genetics, and it depends on how well your body clears drugs. It depends on how your body responds to like how your blood work responds to drugs. Some people can take a lot and their blood work barely budges. Some people take a little and their blood work goes haywire. So it's like it's hard to determine what that is. And truly, until you've pushed that limit, you probably don't know.
It's very much dependent based and risk tolerance based. And some people don't give a shit. Some people are willing to accept more risk than others, whereas females, if you take them on a little bit and they get a lot of side effects, it's like, well, um, you're not going to respond that much from that, so you have to go slower with certain drugs and certain things.
Hmm.
Someone will know. Someone will should tell you if they feel like they're past it, but also you need to
Yeah,
be in tune with yourself and be like, okay, like, I'm getting my health is like my blood work doesn't look great. Like maybe this is a time for me to like
yeah.
step back instead of push forward.
Well, also, I mean, I think from a coaching perspective, there is kind of an easy marker to tell, and but it's reliant upon the client clearly communicating with you and understanding what's going on. And so, for example, I think that if you're running through an off-season training program and in let's say 8 weeks, you're starting to crash out, your training is starting to take a hit, you're starting to injure yourself, you're starting to have problems. It tends, in my experience, it tends to mean that the stress load on your body is just too high. And so I would argue that probably the dosages are a little too high, because they're putting a little bit too much stress on the body. Now, that is just my theory. I very well could be wrong, and that's just my experience in doing this. But I think that that's a decent indication that the dosages may be too high. Now, is it a point of diminishing return? Where that threshold is, I don't know. I know kind of what those numbers are for me, where I think that much more is not as beneficial. But that's my general thought on it.
Yeah, I mean, where do you see most people take the most amount of gear? Is it in off season or is it in prep from what you've seen?
I think I'm gonna have to take my personal input because by the amount, do you just mean overall milligram overall dosage per week?
Yeah, overall milligram dosage, toxicity of the drugs themselves, like
Yeah, yeah. Um, I would say guys probably tend to use a bit more in prep, because I think that a lot of people are just chasing that look so much, and they think that adding more is going to do it. But the off season, I would argue, is where it can be a lot more detrimental to your health, in that When we have food so high and we're in an excess of body fat, I have found that that's actually when my bloods look the worst. Now, they're by no means good at 3 weeks out, but typically leading up to about the 8 week mark, my bloods are typically fine. It's when you get inside that being very lean arena is when it starts to go bad. So I would argue that the dosages that are being used in off season, and in my experience, the dosages that I was using in the off season, and then eating as much food as I was, not really doing cardio, training as hard as I was, is whenever my health would take the biggest hits.
Do you feel like that's more body fat correlated or gear correlated?
I think that it's all of the above. I think it's the culmination of it.
Yeah, but like if you use the same amount of gear in your off season, but you were at the 8 week out leanness, and you were, let's say you were going into your off season like that, what would be the would you be using more or less? So typically, I mean, I haven't used that much in general, but typically, just because when you're in prep, you use more things like orals. If we're counting
Hmm.
milligram for milligram, you're probably going to run into more milligram per milligram in a prep anyways, even though, some of the science, some of the thing behind it is like you should utilize more gear in your off season from what I've seen from other people. It just depends on what level you're at and what you're trying to do.
Yeah. You know, okay. I can tell you right now that my biggest off season I ever ran was 2,700 milligrams a week. It was 900 tests, 900 EQ, 900 DECA. So 2,700 milligrams a week. That prep, I would say I was probably on 600 test. Let's just say 600 master on. Let's say an average of 450 milligrams of Tren. Then you add in orals at 50 milligrams a week of 50 milligrams a day of Winstrol. That's an additional 350 milligrams. I mean, if you add in, so I mean, I would say my dosages have historically been a little bit lower in prep.
That was like your highest off season, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
And but that's a typical normal, right? That's a typical normal prep dosage for you. Let's just say
Mostly, yeah. I mean, the
mostly
yeah,
2.1,
and
2.2.
and the thing with prep though is that drugs come in and out, and those drugs have different dosing, right? Um, so and then not only that, but like generally speaking, testosterone decreases, like especially for us. I mean, not for everybody, but for some people, we tend to drop testosterone a little bit lower, and raise other things, and so it's like it's always moving.
Yeah, I
So
think
which, yeah,
for me, always prep is, but let's just say so. My off season, last two off seasons have really been the same. 500 tests, 200 EQ, roughly the same. But then in prep, this prep was different. This prep, I used 200 tests. It starts off high. Like I start off usually at 500 tests, maybe two or 300 primo or whatever, something like that. And then as we go down, by the last 10 or 12 weeks, I'm at like 200 tests, 300 mass, and 300 primo. Like I don't use that much testosterone, and the way it's set up is obviously for way more estrogen control. But it obviously makes sense in my look because I always look really, really hard all the
yeah,
time. So, um, but since last year we used two. I don't think this year we will because of the shortages and stuff like that. I think
yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how we do it this year.
I'm having to use EQ
Yeah, I'm using. We went right back to the same to start a prep as
for,
5 and 2.
well, for Liam. I'm using EQ. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I got some actually,
Hmm.
which helped out quite a is gonna be like my piggy bank thing sort of deal if we need to use it. But for the most part, from what I see, you do tend to use more in a prep setting anyways because you're throwing drugs in and
Well,
out. You're doing more
it
orals.
it also makes sense to use them in prep, in my opinion, to use a higher dose because you're really trying to combat muscle loss, and when you need to get dick skin peeled, like it, the anabolic load just needs to be a little bit higher.
Yep, yep. That's kind of where I see that. Um, just be smart with your side effects there. Just watch what your side effects are. If it's in contest prep, it's just it is what it is. But I think in the off season, you just really need to control your body fat and control your health, and that way you can
Yeah.
actually leverage more. Because if you're able to control your body fat in the off season, you won't need as much drugs. You'll be able to just skyrocket with training, food, and recovery. So now we get into the most interesting one, which is peptides. Peptides are being big use for contest prep and off season. People are always trying to min max. I don't know if you ever heard that term. You ever heard of min max?
Min max or
Min
mid max?
min max.
Min max, okay.
It's a gaming term which you basically use. It's like you're trying to do absolutely everything to be like to pull out all the stops essentially. So people are using peptides and all sorts of things,
Yep.
MOTS, obviously retatrutide, all these different things. And I find that they're mostly helpful in a prep
Mhm.
for me
Some of
because
them.
you're
Yeah.
because yeah for the ones that I have tested, I haven't tested out. I've tested out some in the off season. We can go over those exactly, but in a contest prep, I always find that if you're able to have more or better mitochondrial function, you can get away with way less, and you can be more of a human. Um,
Yep. Yeah, the better your body is functioning overall, the better your look is going to be, the better you're going to feel, etc. Um, so I know I used methylene blue and I want to say I used something else, but I can't remember what else I used. Other than, obviously I've used Retta.
doesn't
I'm
you use that
experiment.
in off season though?
Yeah, I did. I did not use that during prep. I used that during the off season. I would still, obviously, I don't know. We don't know any long term side effects or if there's any, health implications for Retta long term. But as of right now, I still think that it's one of the best drugs to hit the market for bodybuilding.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the best peps that has
Yeah.
ever hit the market. We're
What are some
considering
things that you use?
we're considering growth hormone in this.
I mean, it's technically a peptide, right?
Yeah, I think growth hormone is the king of peptides. So if you're going to
I
use
don't
one of
think,
them,
I don't think, yeah, I don't think people normally look at it like that, but yeah, it
that's how I
is
look at it. People ask me what peptides to use. I'm like, fucking
growth hormone.
use GH, big
Yeah,
dog.
not the fucking stupid ass GH secretagogues. I'm sorry, they're not that good. I know
Yeah,
some of you love them and some of you think that they are the world, but they are. I'm telling you, use 2 units of GH, and I promise you, you'll realize that it's not as good as you thought it was.
and in general, if you're gonna run one of these stacks, these security guard stacks, it's gonna be way more expensive. You're
Yeah,
gonna run through
dude.
vials like crazy.
To actually get the effect that you want to get, like you got to run them.
Really high.
Like
And it's expensive.
yeah,
Very expensive. Just to boost your natural. You could come off
yeah,
of growth hormone. I mean, you're not if you're listening to this and you're over 30, 40, 50, like you don't have any growth hormone.
for
Pump
sure.
pump it,
Yeah,
bro. There's no big deal. If you come off it, you don't have to PCT it. You just don't take it.
no,
It's fine.
yeah.
The worst thing, that'll happen is you'll get a drier look.
Hmm.
That's what so I tell people growth hormone for sure. This is my first off season using it and it was my first prep using it. And I think it's made the most dramatic difference in my maturity of my look of my physique. And I've only taken like 4. Well, this off season I took 6.
As much growth hormone as I've used, I've never used growth hormone in prep.
Well, you need to.
I know.
Next prep, Barry.
Tell
Barry.
Andrew the
Barry,
fuck.
if you're listening to
Dog.
this, you're not listening to this.
He's not listening to this.
Snip this 35 minutes in. Um,
Yeah,
you need to take growth hormone. I feel like you just maintain a better look, and it's also good for fat burning. It's one of the very few fat burners actually that are fat burning. That actually lipolytic effect. Retatrutide
hmm,
is also one of them. Growth hormone retatrutide. Fat burning. Clenbuterol is not a fat burner. It's listed as a fat burner, but it doesn't burn fat. We can get into that. But growth hormone, it's just best for recovery, best for sleep, best for performance. I don't really have any experience in tesamorelin, ipamorelin, all these other ones. I personally won't take them. If someone really wants to take them, there's plenty of dosing guides you can look out there for stuff like that. Uh, but just don't
I tried.
expect. Anything
I
crazy.
tried them a decade and a half ago.
Yeah, and you see, and does he use them
I
still?
haven't touched them since.
Exactly. They're
Like
just don't.
that's how long. I don't think people realize how long some of these peptides have been out.
Oh yeah, forever. Um,
Yeah, I got into peptides before I got into steroids. Like I took GHRP6, GHRP2, CJC, DAC, no DAC, Ceramorelin, Ipamorelin, all of that shit. Like
the only one that I
tried
have
it.
used that I actually have other people I use. I like MK677. I think for some people it's really good for appetite. If you guys struggle to eat, start taking that. It'll help out. It's not growth hormone.
I've
It's
met
not going to
people
be
that
like
have.
that. It's good though. Like it's okay. It's okay. You can take that one. I think that one is one of the ones that I would only be like, sure. If you want to use one, use one. It takes some time to build up, but fucking have at her.
Yeah, but even
Still
that's not
expensive.
really a peptide.
No, but it's
No.
more of a SARM. But I guess I kind of put them all in the
Yep.
same category. But for the last contest prep, I used a little bit of Motsy, 1 to 2 milligrams. Didn't really notice too much. Then I used methylene blue. I liked methylene blue a lot for just cognitive, just to feel like my brain was
Hmm.
functioning pretty good. And
NAD
then,
plus.
yeah, NAD plus, a little bit of NAD plus for that as well. And then glutathione towards the end. Just when I added orals, I added in glutathione in there. Um, and then retatrutide,
Yeah.
which think we got up to 3.5 milligrams a week, 5 6 weeks out. It didn't fucking do dick outside of maybe take a little bit of the food noise away, but when you're
When you're
shredded,
that
it's,
lean, bro. Yeah.
you're fucked. I do think
Yeah.
it did probably take the edge off though, like long term wise, it's gonna take the
Hmm.
edge off a little bit for sure. Um, but I think out of those, I think Retta, growth hormone, and methylene blue are probably my favorites. NAD plus too, but NAD plus is going to work on like the back burner, whereas you're going to notice you take retatrutide, you're going to notice when you take growth hormone, and you're going to notice when you take methylene blue.
Well, you're gonna notice when you take NAD if you don't need NAD. So one of the things to watch out for with NAD is that at some point, and now everybody's going to be different, but at some point, and depending on how much you're taking, it's going to give you a bit of anxiety when you take it, and that means that you're kind of like you're running at your max. Um, I was taking 100 milligrams a day, injectable, and it took a week and a half, 2 weeks before I started to get anxiety when I would take it. And I say anxiety, what it felt like is it felt like I took a large dose of Clen. So I felt yeeted in my chest, but not like mentally yeeted, if that makes sense.
Sketch.
Yeah. But I've talked to several people and they say that that's actually a side effect of the cells running too efficiently and too fast, basically. And that's what's happening. Grant Fowler is actually the one who I talked to first about it. And he warned me about it, and then I kind of put two and two together and realized that that's what was happening. And then I pulled the dose back, and you just pull the dose back, and take it, every couple of days or something like that, and it goes away. It's fine. But
Yeah, and then in the off season I just used growth hormone, and I actually didn't use Retta. I used growth hormone and just a little bit of SLU, and that was it.
I want to experiment a little bit more with SLU. I've talked to a couple of people that have used like much higher dosages than what I was initially seeing, and they saw great results from it. I tried SLU at a low dose. I want to say I did like 250 to 500 micrograms, and I don't think it did anything for me. Um, but I've talked to some people where they're like, yeah, the low dose didn't do anything for me, but I've talked to others who the low dose did great for them. So um, I might experiment with it and run it at a higher dose, see what happens. It's not something that I give to anybody because I don't have enough experience with it, though.
Yeah, it's up in the air of its effectiveness, but if we're trying to use it as like say an alternative to clenbuterol, I mean, let's just say it works similar in that way. Um, it would be interesting to use it with certain people because some people just cannot take stem or should not take a lot of stem.
Hmm.
Because clenbuterol is can get can get crazy if you use enough of it. So if you want to keep your stress low, oxidative stress low, I think SLU could be a good alternative. I'm gonna use it in contest prep. I'm probably gonna use a higher dose, play around with a higher dose of it. Again, I used it
What
in the off season.
what's
What?
a hard dose for you, Ian?
Like 100 milligrams.
Oh, that's a higher dose. Yeah,
I
I
only
was
use
thinking more along the lines of 40, but
I only use 500 micrograms in the off season.
okay.
But I've heard people take higher dosages of it. But then again, it's just like it's one of those things that like I probably only wouldn't use until I actually maybe really needed it because I get in shape pretty quick. I would rather not use that tool off the get go because
Yeah,
my body's going to tighten up like crazy. I'd rather like to see it if it performs like really well in the last like 6 weeks. Like, can it get
yeah,
that last bit of body fat off,
yeah.
or is it not worth it? That's the only time I would probably really use it, something like that. But yeah, that's all I got for questions.
Cool. Well, this is one of our longer episodes, that's for sure. But we haven't talked in a while, so Dave will be happy. He'll have something to listen to.
Yeah, all you people doing cardio, if you're dieting for shows and shit like
Yep,
that, hopefully you had a good time. And if you have more than 40 minutes of cardio, then you're in the trenches right now. So
for sure, dude. Well, hopefully we can record these a little bit more frequently now that hopefully things are settling down a bit.
yes.
But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful Easter. Later, bitches.